Sox in the basement.
I'm the Sox nerd with my weekly White Sox stumper. Who tied Minnie Minoso's 1956 club record by getting hit by 23 pitches in 2011? I'll have my answer at the end of my spiel later in the podcast.
Little bit of a different view.
Panic! Panic, panic, panic!
You're not even gonna let me jump into the beginning of the show? You're panicked?
No, it's just panic everywhere for White Sox fans. Panic!
We'll get into that today.
Panic,
we'll get into that today. I don't think you need to panic. I'm not panicked. I'm not panicked. Are you panicked, or are you just making fun of people panicking?
I'm making fun of people panicking.
Okay, good, because I was worried about you there for a minute. A little bit of a different view.
I can't afford, health-wise, I can't afford to panic over the White Sox.
You could have given yourself another grabber right there, yelling. Calm yourself down. A little bit of a different view on the YouTube or on the video feed that goes on Facebook. I'm trying something out. If it looks weird, I apologize. I'll find something else next time. But we're going to try it just for this one. If you like listening, don't worry about it. We're available anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. You can reach out to us through soxinthebasement.com. There's voicemails. You can write things. I should get to the voicemails more. I apologize. I'm having a sound quality issue, and I would like that fixed before I start actually playing those on the show. This episode of Sox in the Basement, and every episode of Sox in the Basement, brought to you by Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. And you're right. There's a panic, and I get the panic. We got to talk about what's going on with Kyle Teal's injury and the decision to bring up Edgar Caro over other options that were available, and why is that? And then some of the things being suggested about the trade market, about Munetaka Murakami and re-signing him. It just feels like we've hit this moment with the trade deadline coming up where people, I don't want to say people are going for clickbait, but there is a panic out there in the White Sox sphere. And there are things being thrown out there that I think are kind of irrational and stop detracting from a really good season. Look, if they take 2 out of 3 in a series, it's a good thing. Stop focusing on the loss. Guys get injured. The problem with the last group was that there was an assumption that everybody, all 26, would just stay healthy for 162 because they had nobody behind them. You have guys behind at every position ready to step up. And so far, I've seen so many guys get brought to the major leagues that have performed. I'm not panicking. Hyatt Home Medical Equipment is where you switch to a new age of life. Keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living. Make it so they can get around and on their own, living independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, and even bathroom remodeling. Here's the deal. You got somebody in the household, maybe it's you, and you're having a hard time getting off the chair. They have these lift chairs. We've done video of it before, but you can go to their website, hhme.com, and you can see these things. They will stand you up. They're like a lazy boy with extra functions on them. They're extremely comfortable. I've sat in them before. You can actually put massagers inside there as well. They are a great price. It's the same as going out and getting yourself that kind of a chair without all of those options. And they can do the upholstery in leather or fabric, and they can find something that's pretty close if it doesn't just match exactly to the rest of the furniture. Most people aren't even going to notice that you have equipment from Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. That's how good they are at what they do. They have the latest and greatest in CPAP machines and continuous glucose monitors and so much more for your care. 0% financing for qualified individuals. They work with your insurance. You can tell your insurance agency, you can tell your doctor, this is where I want to go, and that's where you're going to get to go. See it all at hhme.com. I don't know what I want.
I have a theory. I have a theory about where White Sox fans
You're ready to go
at.
today, so I'm just letting you go. Go.
Well, you know the first time you're going to get laid, and there's that moment where you feel like it's really going to happen.
And the first time that's going to happen for you, you're that nervous that you would say it that way. But go ahead.
Right. Okay. And you're nervous, and now you're worried about performance. Now you're worried about whether or not you have the right equipment. You're worried about whether or not
I'm sorry, kids.
Everything's going to go well.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to get graphic here.
There's
that moment.
Close.
There's that moment of doubt, right? There's that moment of doubt where if you don't take a breath and you don't relax a little bit and just let it happen, it's not going to happen. All right, it's going to come crashing down on you too soon. That's how I'm going to put that. But that's where White Sox fans feel like they're at. We've got this great run we're on, right? You've got a first place team. They're 7 games over 500. They just came off of a solid road trip, taking on the Blue Jays and the Rangers. They're still leading the division. I mean, granted, it's a tight race, And yeah, some things aren't going exactly as you imagined, but it's going so well. Just take a breath, sit back, relax, and let it play out a little bit. Okay.
You're telling me the season's beautiful. It's saying all the right things in your ear. Just relax and let it happen. Right?
Yes.
Stop overthinking it.
Don't overthink it. Just go with the flow. And it's going to be worth celebrating afterwards. Now, yes, it might end a little bit quicker.
I definitely celebrate afterwards, so I get that analogy.
I know, yeah. It might end a little bit quicker. It might get a little messy along the way, but it's going to be fun. And just sit back and let it be fun. Just have fun, folks.
Okay.
Just have fun.
All right. That was a good way to start the show. That's one of my favorite first 5 minutes of this podcast in 10 years. Here's the thing.
Just like everything else, the next 20 minutes are going to go poorly now.
I think that Ed's fired up because we were talking about something off the air. And before I approach it, I just want to say it's never my intention to give a hard time to people that do podcasts in the White Sox sphere. Like, I pick on people on the radio a lot. They're broadcast professionals. All right. We were both in the broadcast industry for years, long time ago, but we were, right?
And I think you and I have both been called out for saying stupid things, both
all the time
when we were professionals and when we're doing this.
We get called out on this show too, okay? And I'm not going to use names here, but I got to tell you, last week or within the last week, somebody who I think does a very good job out there went on local radio and suggested the idea that Munetaka Murakami, if he's not locked up immediately, could possibly run off to the Dodgers because Shohei Ohtani would convince him to go. And the idea to me, and then also it was suggested that Justin Ishbia has got to come in and he's got to pay. He's got to go to Jerry Reinsdorf and say, I'll pay for Munetaka Murakami. Or otherwise, just because these two guys grew up on the same island of Japan and speak the same language, Murakami will just run off because Shohei asked him to. Because he'll just recruit him, and that'll be far more powerful than anything that the White Sox could do. And I had a lot of reactions to that. One, if that were the case, every Asian player in Major League Baseball would be playing for the LA Dodgers. So stop that, okay? And two, look at the White Sox payroll over the last 20 to 30 years, because I brought it up today. And it's very easy to do. You just have to Google White Sox payroll year by year. Cott's baseball contracts does a really good job of just listing everything. Opening day 26-man roster for this year was over $86 million. That's terrible. That's why I say Jerry Reinsdorf is cheap. As I have this conversation, please remember, I think Jerry Reinsdorf's a cheap owner. I think a guy who's had a team for over 4 decades and has only had one season in which his team could win a playoff series, and they were fortunate enough to win 3 of them, go 11-1 and win a World Series. But all those other years, his team could not make the playoffs most of those years and did not win their opening series in any of the other years. Except I always forget about the shortened season. No, they lost in that one, right?
No, they did. They
lost all of them. No, so I'm right. I'm right about it. Yeah, in my old age, I question myself, but I'm right. Okay. I have massive problems with him. I think a guy that was given as much as he was given from Major League Baseball when they facilitated him taking over the White Sox because they didn't like the first guy that was going to go and get the team, who then goes on and gets the San Francisco 49ers and builds a dynasty because he could spend money and wasn't afraid to do so. Jerry Reinsdorf takes over this team and does everything from threatening to move it out of the city and gets sweetheart deals and has far more money that he doesn't spend on his team. And I complain about him all the time. But you can't deny that this team had a $123 million payroll in 2024, $181 million payroll on their opening day 26-man in 2023, $193 million payroll in 2022. When the team is competing, he gets way up there. He will spend money. If Munetaka Murakami was offered $30 million a year right now and nothing was deferred, they would still come in next year in their opening day payroll lower than all those years by a great margin. The majority of your team is locked up for years and years in pre-arb and arbitration years because it's so young. You could sign him and still go out and get free agents and have enough payroll flexibility. You have a CBA coming up. You don't know what their strategy is with it. And we've only seen one half from him, a half which has shown that he can get injured, and a half that has shown a couple of struggles here and there. He's essentially a rookie, and you want to give him this massive amount of money. I want to give him a massive amount of money too, but I don't think the issue is that the White Sox aren't going to spend the money on him. I think if Chris Getz said, I want to spend the money on this guy, I think they would spend the money on that guy. I do. I actually believe that. And so I found it to be a weird argument. I found it to be one of those panic things. Like, oh God, this is going to go wrong. We have this guy. We're going to screw this up and get rid of him. Oh God, this is awful. Like, he's just going to get stolen away because he speaks the same language as the biggest star in baseball. So he's just going to steal him. Like, I didn't understand that. To me, it goes back to what you just said. It's the panic thing. People are, I think we've been so conditioned to the idea that it's going to go bad. We're waiting for it to go bad. Yeah. And again, like I said, look, I have no problems with anybody else that's out there, but if you're going to go on the radio and then throw that clip out there on social media, I get to say something about it. I think you're wrong. I think it's wrong to assume that because Shohei Ohtani speaks the same language as Munetaka Murakami, that Murakami, after saying over and over again he wants to stay here, after falling in love with these guys, he's hugging Miguel Vargas like they're long-lost brothers after everything. He is assimilated in and in love with this team, and you just think that he would ignore all of those friendships, all this bond that we keep celebrating because Shohei will call him up on the phone and say, come to LA? I mean, first of all, if he would do that, good riddance to him. Because he's a fake person. Right?
It's true.
Yeah. He's a fake person. If he would do that, then I would let him go. Because I wouldn't want him on my team. Because he's not any of the things that we seem to see him be. But I think he is those things that I see him being, and that's why I don't agree with that argument. I just think that that's panic argument. I think I don't understand that. And trust me, I'm the first person to go on this show and yell that I'm afraid that Jerry Reinsdorf's going to screw something up. I'm the first person to go on this show and yell that I'm afraid that, like, as a White Sox fan, that they're going to peter out as they go on here because they're a young team. I also try to remind myself that in the early 90s, before they made it to the postseason in 93, this team is very similar to that. And there weren't so many playoff spots that you could slide into. Is there a possibility this team falls off a little bit in August and September? Totally. Would they still make the postseason? I really think they would. They may not win the division. They may not be the 2 seed, but I think that they would get in because those teams that always fell just short would have qualified in this current setup for the playoffs. So yeah. I don't think I'm in as much panic as everybody else. I just watch this team go out and win 2 road series against 2 really good teams.
Well, yeah, look, you know, the Murakami thing, there's a couple things you hit on there that I think we need to remember. One is the biggest thing that the Players Association seems to be after in the next CBA is going to be a salary floor, which the White Sox will certainly be under if they don't make any big changes. Well, what makes more sense for Jerry to sit there and tell Chris Getz to go and sign a bunch of guys and try and raise the payroll with outside free agents dealing with the Scott Borases of the world, or take a guy that your fans already love, that brings you international dollars, that sells jerseys, that is, just an absolute bright spot for the franchise financially. And not to mention the other thing that you hit was, I feel like as we've watched this guy come in, Miguel Vargas is far more of his baseball soulmate than Shohei Ohtani. I think Ohtani. Yeah, but they're from the same country, Ed. People can't be friends with people that are from different places. He would just abandon his friend because he wants to run off and be with Shohei. I think I say it out loud and it's ridiculous, right, folks? Yes, I mean, it sounds really stupid, doesn't it? Okay, I just wanted to make sure it sounded stupid. Before you finish your point, I don't want to miss Window and Door Superstore's ad, but I want to keep going on this because it's annoying me. Sure.
It got my blood pressure up, and that's not a good thing at 49. But for exterior,
you know what does not bring your blood pressure up is buying windows and doors from Window and Door Superstore.
No, it actually lowers my blood. Good segue. That's why you're a pro. For exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, and low blood pressure, because there's no high pressure sales, go to Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. All right? I mean, everything's right there. There's no pictures in a book. They're not trying to sell you something based upon their vision of it. Here's this tiny little example. Imagine what it would look like in your house. And you're like, I don't know. I have no idea. Instead, you go into their showroom. The owner's right there. He answers all your questions. He shows you everything right there for you to see it. Okay. On install day, it's all of their own guys, owner on site. They're going to make sure it's done right. They've been doing it that way and backing up their work for over 4 decades in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. If you are thinking of doing something this weekend, stop by and see them and see more at windowdooroakforest.com.
Yeah, go buy a storm door and chill. It's you know,
that's a great. That's my advice to everybody out there in panic mode right now. Go buy a storm door and chill.
Yeah,
just chill out.
Look, the idea. I think Murakami respects Shohei Ohtani. I think every Japanese player probably has a lot of respect for what Ohtani's done. Okay, to really raise up Japanese baseball and show that these guys are not just competing in a minor league or a league that cannot hang with the majors. I mean, Ohtani comes here. He's one of the best pitchers in the game when he's healthy. He is one of the best hitters in the game. And I'm sure Murakami is looking at this going like, this is the equivalent of, anybody who is a young outfielder in the era that Ken Griffey Jr. comes up. Yeah, you're going to see the guy and be like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. So I'm sure there's that, but Chicago is a good destination for a lot of international players. I mean, love the city that we live in for the fact that we have all the culture.
Patrick Kane is back, isn't he?
Patrick Kane just came back, for God's sake.
But think about that. I mean,
but he's from Buffalo. That's practically Canada.
People want to play here. People want to be in a major market. We talked at the beginning of the year how there's a great Japanese population here in Chicago, and that Japanese players feel very comfortable being here. And I want to wrap this up.
Players feel comfortable being here.
And I want to wrap this up. I want to wrap this up in a bow because there's other things that I want to get to on this episode. Okay, but what would you rather want on your team? Do you want Kobe Bryant, who looks at a Michael Jordan and says, I respect him, but I want to beat him, and I'm going to stay on the one team my entire career, and I'm going to win here in LA? Or do you want LeBron James, who wants to bounce around?
No, I want Kobe.
Okay. Do you want somebody who wants to join another superstar? Or do you want the guy who says, I am the superstar, this is my team, I love these guys, and we're going to win? So that's why I say, one, I don't think that is a factor as much as it was portrayed. But two, if he really wants to leave, good riddance. I don't think he does, though. As I say it, I'm like, please don't be mad at me, Mooney. I don't think that's you.
And I think the White Sox want to resign him. And I think what Chris Getz said early on when he was asked about extending him still holds true. It's early days yet. It's been one half of a season.
Thank you.
Let me get through a full season, and then I'm going to make a decision about what happens next with this team. And in Chris Getz, we trust because
he's done everything right.
Yeah. And here we are, speaking of panicking, going into the trade deadline. Now we're sitting here wondering, oh my God, is Chris Getz going to be able to make the right moves? And so many names are being thrown around.
No, they make no sense. Some of them don't make any sense.
Well, and some of the names that are getting thrown around, you and I, before the show started, we were talking about with Kyle Teal's injury, Tyler Stevenson's name has popped up from the Reds. The Reds are obviously faltering this year. And it has been suggested that Stevenson and Brady Singer as a package coming back to the White Sox for something would be an outstanding move, even though Tyler Stevenson is a pretty good catcher. And yes, his stats are better than anything Kyle Teal or Edgar Caro has put up. And of course, a lot better than what Drew Romo's done. But Brady Singer's not a particularly good pitcher. He's had a couple of good seasons here and there. He's not in the middle of one of them. And so you sit there and you go, well, but what does Brady Singer bring me other than innings, which is going to become important for the White Sox, but he's not a game-changing starting pitcher. So the question becomes, what do you guys really want as fans? Do you want Chris Getz to go out and get somebody who is going to, just by their sheer skill alone, really move the needle towards the White Sox are going to take this division? They're going to go and do a lot in the playoffs. Or are you just panicking because we watched Noah Schultz, who probably shouldn't be here? And I've been saying, I don't think his stuff is quite as good as everybody made it out to be. I don't think he is the second coming of Randy Johnson based on his delivery and lack of intimidation. He doesn't use his height to his advantage. Noah Schultz, yeah, they need another starter. Maybe a Brady Singer helps that, but I would say, look, we've got a couple weeks to play with here. Let's see if Chris Getz can find somebody who is actually going to help Sean Burke and help Davis Martin in a short series, as opposed to somebody who is going to match what Eric Fedde already gives you at the back end of the rotation. There's a lot of possibilities, and some of them are just stick with what's going on right now and hope that Edgar Quero does better. Hope that one of the guys that are in the minors, Sandlin or Smith.
I have a couple of questions about guys in the minors before I get into that. Before I get into that, Moose Vinyl is an application for record collectors to manage their record collections, buy and sell them, and it's available on your iPhone, coming to your Android very soon. I've become a big record collector. Moose Vinyl is the newer, more streamlined app, better than anything else I can find out there. It's designed for collectors and allows the importing of CSV files from other platforms. So if you're using somebody else, you can move it right over, manage your collection, and it's already being praised as having the best user interface around. And now Moose Vinyl has their own brick and mortar record store for you to experience. I was just in there yesterday. I've been exchanging texts with the owners. They're doing great. They continue to get bigger and better, and it's definitely a place for you to go and check out. Visit Moose Vinyl in Lamont downtown, 238 Main Street. Get by Moose Vinyl, see them where they're selling turntables and vintage audio equipment at discount through the month of July. And make sure you get that app on your iPhone. Again, hopefully coming to the Android soon. We were talking about that yesterday. It will be getting there very, very soon. Okay, here's my question. And I want, and again, this is not me picking on them, but a request, a humble request. I would like the Scott Merkins, the James Fegans, the Bruce Levines, whoever is around, this team, to ask a very simple question. Why do you not want to bring Corey Lee back up? What is your issue with him? What is your issue with any of the other catching depth that you have in your system? And what did Edgar Quero do to deserve to be immediately brought back up when he went down to AAA and continued to suck? I mean, they can't ask it the way I just asked it, but they can clean it up. They're professionals, right? We got an email here from Dean.
There's nicer ways to say that, yeah.
Dean Coppin wrote in at SoxInBasement.com, really trying to figure out the Corey Lee situation. The guy was a very competent catcher with a great arm, hits for power, had a positive impact when he played during the dead man walking days of Pedro Grifol. Checked his AAA stats. He's hitting .239 with 13 home runs, 41 RBIs, and an .805 OPS. What's the knock on him? And was thinking at the very least you can call him up to possibly showcase him for a trade instead of keeping him in minor league purgatory. When Kyle Teal goes down and you find out that he's going to be out for 2 months, you put him on a 60-day IL, it opens up a 40-man spot. You can add anybody, so don't give me that 40-man spot thing. And if you were like, well, we got to get somebody up here right away and we didn't know for a couple of days, fine. But I would make the adjustment right now. Because I don't think Edgar Quero's done anything. He is still the exact same guy that you said not good enough to be on this team. And Drew Romo isn't doing anything. You want to send him down and keep Quero up? Fine. But I don't understand what the problem is and the knock is on Corey Lee. Why do you think they don't want him up here? Because the question needs to be asked. What did Corey Lee do that doesn't make him an option? Because this guy went from a guy that looked like he was valuable to somebody who was DFA'd. And every team had a chance to grab in the offseason. You reacquired, stuck down in AAA, and he's actually done more in his time in AAA than what Edgar Quero or Drew Romo has shown you. And you don't want to consider him an option. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Michael Turner's down there. Josh Brio is down there. Turner. I feel
Turner
like
looks really good. What's wrong with him either? I looked at his stats, his baseball card. He looks like a guy who has been steadily improving, figuring things out, and has an upward trend.
Well, defensively, he only throws out 10% of the guys.
Okay,
that
well,
run
that's
on
his problem.
So
then there's the
that's
issue.
his problem.
You've answered that question, but what's the answer to Corey Lee?
My theory on Corey Lee was when you acquired Edgar Quero and Kyle Teal, and you had those guys listed as 1A and 1B. Corey Lee was a clubhouse problem because Corey Lee also wanted to be 1A or 1B, and rightfully so. I don't absolutely would not trash the guy for wanting to sit there and say, hey, I'm the starting catcher of this team, or at least I should be. That is an absolutely valid thing for Corey Lee to feel. If that was the case and you didn't want him around as a backup because you didn't want that resentment brewing in the clubhouse, or you didn't think you needed a third catcher because you had no intention of moving Kyle Teal or Edgar Quero off of the dish, that's fine. But right now,
I want a guy who wants to steal their job.
Right now, Corey Lee.
Right? Wouldn't I want a guy on this team right now that wants to come up and prove you all wrong? Who wants to come up and grab the brass ring? Who wants to come up and be the starting catcher for the rest of the season and prove that he deserves to be considered in the same way as everybody else? He may fail, but I'd like to give that guy a shot.
Yeah, and if he's a clubhouse cancer in general for some reason, obviously we don't know that.
Well, yeah, but we're surmising that must be the problem because we can't find any other reason for this. Because we haven't heard anything that he was a clubhouse cancer. I thought it was very leadership of him to rip Pedro when nobody else had the balls to do it. And everybody's like, who's this Rook? But the Rook was right.
The Rook was right, and Pedro was a terrible manager, and he had lost the clubhouse. And looking back in hindsight, 2020 vision, holy cow, was Corey Lee right on top of it? And it reminds me of when the Bulls drafted Joakim Noah, and Noah was complaining that nobody on the team seemed to care, and he was shushed by some of the veterans. And you look back at it, you go, no, Joakim Noah is right. That team sucked, and none of the veterans seemed to care. It was, it's the same kind of thing. So if there's a personality clash with Corey Lee, then that begs the question, who are you going to acquire that doesn't clash?
And if the guy is, and here's the thing, if you're willing to give up assets to bring in another catcher and not give him a look, why is he down there? Just cut him. Right? Because you're never bringing him up. You just
traded for a catcher when you traded Ben Peoples, who, by the way, looked good for the Rangers.
If you don't feel like he's ever going to have an opportunity up here, then I don't even understand why you're holding on to him. Like, it's the confusing thing for me. And you have to go out and make moves, not only for a catcher. That's the other thing. You still need the pitching. To me, yes, you need to find a catcher. It's the knee-jerk reaction. But don't you need a pitcher even more? There was an article up at CBS Sports. There was an article up at CBS Sports for fantasy baseball that triggered this for me, and we're going to end on this, and then we're going to get to the Sox Nerd. The article was like, these are the players in fantasy baseball you should try to trade right now because they're going to hit an innings limit because they've never pitched this many innings. And it made me go, oh gosh, what does that look like for the White Sox in real life? Well, Sean Burke, who may be your ace currently on this team, the most he's ever pitched is 134 and a third innings. That was last year. And before that, he had hit 108 in 2022 while he was in the minor league system. And there was a big gap in between there where he never put up a lot of innings. He's at 112 and a third right now. He's about 22 innings away from his max innings. Davis Martin, his max innings was last year as well, 142 and 2/3, had never reached over 100, even come close to 100 in any other year before that. He's at 106 innings right now. Now, Anthony Kay, Eric Fetty, they've pitched a lot of innings in their career. I'm not worried about them. They're also not your 1 and your 2 in your rotation, though. That's where the concern is. And you talked about Noah Schultz earlier. This guy's already maxing out his most innings that he's ever had because he's never done a ton of innings because they babied him down there in the minors and he had the little injury that he had. I mean, I don't see how this guy finishes the season in your rotation. He's not performing well enough to do it, and there's no way he has the innings left in that arm. I doubt that highly. You need to get pitching, whether it's guys coming up from the minors. Drew Thorpe, by the way, in a Scott Merkin article, possible late August, early September call-up. I don't know if you're going to be able to make it to there when he's ready to come up. You got to find arms. That's the biggest concern. That's why I'm surprised we're also going to entertain the idea of trying to find a catcher. I would give a Corey Lee an opportunity here. And I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of, okay, Edgar Caro, we don't see any difference in the majors or the minors. We'd like to rather work with you in the majors, so it'll be you and it'll be Lee. And Drew Romo, thank you very much. Go back down or keep working. Because nobody in the catching battery, which used to be the deepest thing on this team, remember? Like that was the debate 6 months ago. What are we going to do with all these catchers? Nobody has grabbed anything on this roster. It's one of the biggest holes on the team.
Yeah, when he traded Ben Peoples and got another catcher, like, well, what do you need another catcher?
Yeah.
When they're talking about Von Lackey in the draft, I was like, well, you don't need another catcher. Now it's like,
yes, we need a catcher. Yeah, and you know what? I'm not panicked over it.
No,
because you know what you're talking about right now in my lineup? We're talking about the bottom half of my lineup because it hits well.
You're talking about an 8 or 9 hitter,
right? This is all you are. You're a team that's rolling in first place, holding on to it strongly. Your bigger issue is your pitchers and the innings and the fact they're going to start running out of them. That is the desperate moment. And it is not because of bad planning on the part of the front office. They just didn't expect them to be this good this year. So now they got to react to it. And I think they will. And trust me, if we get past the trade deadline and they screwed all this up, then I'll panic.
There will be panic, but the other piece of good news is when you look at the starters down in Charlotte, the biggest inning total down there is 72, and it's Jonathan Cannon, who's not coming back up here. Guys like that are pitching well, like Mason Adams, 30 innings. I mean,
he may come up. You might get him in the rotation.
There's tread left on the tires in the minors too that can eat some innings. It's just it's going to be a question of, is there enough arm? And then again, if Chris Getz is going to expend capital and expend resources to go out and get these guys, is he going to bring somebody back that's worth it, or are we just looking for a warm body? Because if we're looking for a warm body, well then, the making the playoffs will be nice, but I wouldn't expect much beyond that.
That music means the Sox Nerd, Dave Marin, is on the line with his trivia nuggets and tidbits and all the good stuff he puts up on the scoreboard at The Rate, and he brings you even more each and every week here on Sox in the Basement, brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience the downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, check out everything they have going on. Sunset Soiree is on most Thursdays in the summer. They do a live street concert. And on Wednesday nights, they do cruise nights, which may be the best car show in the area. It was highly attended this week. I was out there with the whole family, the food trucks, the cars that are out there. Get out to Lamont and check out everything they have going on and see it all at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for me?
With the Bronx Bombers invading the South Side for 4 games next week, I thought I'd drop a few nuggets on the Sox-Yankees rivalry. Aaron Judge won't play for the Yankees in the series because of a rib injury. Thank God. The man murders pretty much everyone, but he has been especially devastating to the White Sox. How does a 406 average with 18 homers in 39 games sound? By the way, Judge has been consistently brutal against our Sox. He hits both 406 at home and at the Rate against the Sox. Judge's 406 average is the best by any opponent with at least 39 games against the Sox. And thanks to his performance in the Field of Dreams game, Judge's average in Sox home games is .412, which is also a record, so he won't be missed next week. You may have heard the name Walt Dropo the last couple of days. His 1952 American League record of hits in 12 consecutive at-bats was recently tied by the Royals' Tyler Tolbert. Dropo set the mark when he was with Detroit, but he played for the Sox from 1955 to 1958, and he was in the center of the greatest brawl between the Yankees and the Sox. The date was June 13, 1957, and the site was Comiskey Park. The fracas was ignited by a knockdown pitch from the Yankees' Al Ditmar to Larry Doby. After the two exchanged words, Doby dropped Ditmar with a left hook and the melee was on. Chicago and Moose Skowron jumped on Doby, and that brought the 6'5", 220-pound Dropo into the mix, and the rumble was on. The Donnybrook lasted 30 minutes, resulted in 5 ejections, and produced a famous picture of the Yankees' Enos Country Slaughter leaving the field with his jersey in tatters. That was the best fight in Sox history until they went at it with the Tigers on April 22, 2000. Among players with a decent sample size, Franklin Park's Craig Wilson is the Sox all-time leader with a .421 average against the Yankees. Paul Konerko is the Sox career leader with 23 homers against the Yankees. Ninth on this list is Walt Dropo. How about that? Among current players, Andrew Benintendi has been tough on the Yankees, hitting .417 with an .824 slugging percentage against his old team the last 2 seasons. And Colson Montgomery is the Sox active leader with 5 bombs against the Bombers. And one more on the Yankees. This rivalry runs deep for Sox fans. How deep? The late Ed Farmer, a Southsider who prepped at St. Rita, refused to report to the Yankees after he was traded there in the spring of 1974. He was ultimately sent to the Phillies, and that's a story Ed loved to tell on the air. Before I get to my stumper answer and zinger, I remind you, gems like these and more can be found on my WordPress blog, which you can find at soxinthebasement.com, and I'm also on X, Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. My stumper answer? I asked who tied Minnie Minoso's 1956 club record with 23 hit-by pitches in 2011, and it was Carlos Quentin. By the way, Sam Antonacci stands at 18, so that record is in jeopardy. My zinger? Brian Hudson notched his 4th save in that glorious win in Texas on Wednesday. Those 4 preservations are the most by a Sox southpaw since Jace Fry saved 4 in 2018. The last Sox lefty with more than 4 saves in a season was that cut-up Chris Sale with 8 in 2021. That's it, Chris. Probably more than you wanted to know about the Yankee rivalry, the great Ed Farmer, and southpaw saves.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.